Ukrainian military did not allow Putin's army to gain a foothold on the outskirts of the village of Stepnogorsk in the Zaporizhzhia region. For several days, units of the defense forces fought for control over the southern outskirts where enemy sabotage and assault groups had entrenched themselves. The cleanup was carried out by soldiers of the 210th Ukrainian Armed Forces together with related units. The enemy tried to penetrate and gain a foothold in the urban area in small groups, but was discovered in time and destroyed without any mercy. The unit's statement said the operation was recorded on video. The footage shows how artillery and drones are used to carry out precise strikes on enemy positions entrenched in multi-story buildings. UAVs were used to adjust the fire. After a series of targeted attacks, assault groups of the Ukrainian Armed Forces headed to the site, completing the cleanup. The command of the 210th Regiment emphasized that the success of the operation was ensured by careful planning and coordinated actions of various branches of the armed forces. Each assault is a carefully planned operation. Before the assault aircraft enter the position, it is processed by artillery and drones, the regiment representative noted. It was especially emphasized that the mission was completed without any losses among personnel. Earlier, media reported that the General Staff said that with the breakthrough of the Russian armed forces near Dobropolye, there are already the first successes of the Ukrainian armed forces. It is noted that Russian occupiers continue active attempts to advance in the Dobropolye and Pokrovsky directions. According to the military, the enemy has concentrated more than 110,000 soldiers in this area, trying to break through deep into the Ukrainian defense. Ukrainian units are engaged in heavy defense battles using all available means to contain the enemy. Enemy forces are acting boldly despite significant losses, trying to penetrate our defense lines with sabotage and small infantry groups. These tactical attempts are aimed at creating a threat in the rear and disrupting the stability of the defense positions. Particular attention is paid to the activity of saboteurs who tried to bypass Ukrainian positions and go in the direction of the settlement of Zolotoy Kolodyaz. Cases of secret penetration into the settlement of Veseloy, Volnoy, Rubeznoy, and Kucherov Yar have also been recorded. Some of these groups have already been destroyed. The rest are in the process of being liquidated. The situation is difficult and dynamic, but the defense forces are taking all necessary measures to detect and destroy enemy groups, the General Staff said in a statement. By decision of the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, General Alexander Syrsky, additional forces and resources have been allocated to strengthen defensive positions. Measures to block and eliminate the enemy in certain areas are planned. Reserve units have already identified the enemy and achieved initial successes, destroying the occupiers and taking them prisoner. The concentration of more than 110,000 troops in one of the key areas indicates an attempt by the enemy to develop an offensive in critical areas. However, such massive efforts are encountering staunch resistance from Ukrainian forces, which significantly complicates the advance and depletes the enemy's resources.
The planned meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska will take place at the Elmendorf-Richardson military base, CNN reported citing sources. Soon after the meeting began, organizers concluded that the only Alaska city suitable for hosting the summit was Anchorage, the state's largest city. And only the Elmendorf-Richardson Air Base on the northern edge of the city could meet security requirements, although the White House hoped to avoid a situation in which the Russian president would end up on the territory of an American military facility, CNN reports. Elmendorf-Richardson Base is a strategic facility used jointly by the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Army. It is home to F-22 Raptor fighters, C-17 Globemaster III military transport aircraft, as well as Special Forces units of the U.S. Army operating in the Arctic region. The base is of great importance in terms of managing military operations in the Arctic and Pacific regions. As the TV channel's interlocutor said, when choosing a venue for the meeting, the options with Europe were immediately discarded, due to the arrest warrant issued by the International Criminal Court in The Hague for Putin. At the same time, the sources continue, the option with Hungary was considered, whose Prime Minister Viktor Orbán is close to both Putin and Trump. Although the Russian president had named the United Arab Emirates as a suitable location for the summit, the White House had hoped to avoid another long trip to the Middle East after Trump's visit in May, CNN has learned. Ultimately, U.S. officials were delighted and somewhat surprised when Putin agreed to meet on U.S. soil, the channel reports. According to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, Trump and Putin will hold at least part of the meeting alone, with translators present and no advisors present. Trump's two previous meetings with Putin also had high-ranking aides absent at certain points, CNN recalls. Usually, such a summit is preceded by extensive negotiations and months of preparation, which was not the case this time. Trump himself said that he assessed it as a test meeting. The president feels, I need to talk to this guy at the table. I need to meet him in person. I need to hear him in person. I need to assess the situation by looking at him, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio commented on the summit. As CNN notes, it remains virtually unknown what prompted Putin to agree to meet with Trump after Special Envoy Stephen Witkoff visited Moscow. 2 days before the summit, European leaders and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky are expected to speak with Trump by phone to discuss potential ways to end the war in Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Tuesday that it is impossible to talk about Ukraine without Ukraine, ahead of the upcoming meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President Donald Trump in Alaska. The conversation between Putin and Trump may be important for their bilateral track, Zelensky told a youth forum in Kiev. But they cannot agree on anything about Ukraine without us. Absolutely, we will have a meeting at the leadership level of the three countries. I don't know the date. If we want to end the war, it will happen, he added. According to Associated Press, Putin and Trump are set to meet in Alaska on Friday. The summit will focus on the conflict in Ukraine, which raises concerns about excluding Ukraine from peace negotiations. The Ukrainian leader has categorically rejected any deal with Moscow that could involve ceding land after U.S. President Donald Trump suggested such a concession would be beneficial to both sides. Russia currently holds shaky control over 4 of the country's regions, 2 in the country's east and 2 in the south.
Zelensky. Слава Україні. Допомагає та підтримує. Передусім